give me a second. All right. Give me just a second here. Hello, everybody. Sorry, evidently the link went to the wrong place. So I've been sitting here talking to myself for 10 minutes, but it's okay. Perfect. All right. Hey, Paul. We'll just wait for a few more people to show up and see if we can't get some people in here. Okay. Now we got a few. Hey, Sean, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened with the link, but what I'll do is we'll just go through and do the best we can as people keep rolling in here. And if we have to go a little late, that's fine. It's not a big deal. The KISS documentary is on at home, but I am recording it. Yeah, I don't know what happened, Sean. I'm not sure what the deal was with that. All right, so let's go ahead and just get started while people kind of trickle in here. Paul and Sean, if you guys have any questions, and I know there's a few more people out there because I can see the numbers up a little bit, but all right, cool. Looks like we're doing okay there. So yeah, if we got anything you want to talk about, just let me know, and we will chat about it, and we'll go from there. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. And while I'm doing that, I just thought I'd show you real quick here what I'm doing tonight for my guitar tone. Move that over a little bit there. And we're going to share this. Perfect. All right, there we go. And I'm going to take that and resize that just a little bit there. Perfect. Okay, so what I'm using tonight for guitar tone, it's kind of fun. I'm using, you can see here, I've got, let me move that over here so you can see that. I'm using this Neural DSP Soldano. I've got a lead channel here, and I'm running that panned left, and then I'm using over here the Neural DSP Nolly. Okay, the archetype Nolly, and I've got a lead tone that I'm using there, and I've got that pan to the right. So, hey, Clayt, hey, buddy. Renzo is here. Yeah, I tell you, I don't know what happened with the link. Evidently, the link was the wrong link, so we're just going to hang out for a while and do our thing. Thank you, Clayt. So anyway, I was just showing you what I've got going on here. I'm running stereo. You can see right here. This is one channel right here. I'm going to move my window over just a little bit here. So I've got one channel here, and on this one I'm running the Soldano from Neural DSP, and I'm running that pan to the left, and then to the right over here I've got the Neural DSP archetype Nolly, and I'm running that pan to the right. So if you're listening on a device or headphones or something where you can really hear that, it sounds pretty awesome. Okay, so it's just a really great, easy way to get a really great guitar tone that has that kind of stereo sound to it. Hey, Scotty, how you doing, bud? And that's just a really easy way to run that and get a nice guitar tone, you know, for stuff like this. Sometimes Pete says that's the best plugin out there. Yeah, I really like. There's so many good ones, but I really love the Neural DSP stuff. The STL tones I use a lot. For different things. I tend to run the amp hub. I bought the tone hub and was running some stuff, but I really just find myself using the amp hub for $10 a month, and that seems to work pretty well. But you're right, the Neural DSP stuff is really great. So yeah, that's how I tend to run that. And then what I do is, hey, Martin, and then what I do is I just kind of run those two things. Here, let me go back here. And what I do is I just run one panned left and one panned right. And then what I tend to do is I'll just set up, like right here, you can see I've got a little bit of delay set at 500 milliseconds, 120 beats per minute. And I've got a little reverb right there. And then what I'll do is on the other side, pull that one up. And on this side, okay, you see I got the same thing. I got 500. Sometimes I'll switch that though. I might do, let's say I switch this to, instead of being in sync, maybe what I'll do with this is move it to 750. And then when I play, hear that? If you're listening in stereo, you'll be able to hear that. You might not hear that if you're not listening on headphones or something like that. Yeah, Martin, I'm not. Hey, buddy, I'm not sure what happened with the login. Some of the tech guys are already sleeping, so I'm not exactly sure what happened. But evidently there was the wrong link. So I think from now on, I'm just going to send you over to the YouTube link, and that way we don't have to worry about this stuff. So. Hopefully you can hear me and see me okay. But yeah, that's a really good way to do that. Let me go back to that again for a second. So now I'm running this at 750. Or what I might do is I might take that 750, go back to 500, and I could go to 375, which is an eighth note. Hear that? And now it's not quite so long. But still they're ping-ponging, we call it, right? So that's kind of a cool little effect that you can do too. So again, there's so many different ways of getting great guitar tones. I was first going to use my Kemper, and then I thought, no, I'll show you this. So again, if you guys, anybody out there, if you've got questions about anything, as people keep kind of rolling in here, if you've got questions about anything, playing, recording, performing, anything, ask me any questions you want, and we'll just hang out and chat for a while, okay? No big deal at all, okay? So any questions you got, throw them out, and we'll keep going from there. One thing I will say about these Neural DSP plugins, though, is you have to make sure that you've got a bit of a cushion in terms of the computer that you're running and the power of that computer, and then the buffer size. When I run only one, when I'm doing this sort of thing, it works pretty well, but I have to bump the buffer size up to about 32 or even 64, which really I don't really notice much of a latency, but I do have to bump it up just a little bit for that. Ron says, hello from Florida. This is my first live session. Been watching your videos for years, purchased many of your courses. I love them all. Thank you. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that, man. That's very kind of you. And again, for you too, Ron, if you have any questions about anything, don't be shy. Anything you've got questions about that's guitar/music/performance related, let's just hang out and talk for a while, okay? Any news on the Steve Stine Hawk pick? Actually, I need to put that in my to-dos and get a hold of Rob and see where we are with that. So thank you, Martin, for reminding me that. I'll definitely take a look and see what's going on with that, okay? Still trying to get warmed up here. I'm recording a series of new guitar courses that are all formulated for beginners, for starting at the beginning and really trying to figure out how to make those logical steps to playing music and, songs and chords and strumming and understanding all the elements of things like that. So today, that's what I was kind of focusing on. So Michael is here from San Benito, Texas. Hello, Michael. How you doing, buddy? Yep. Francis says, also waiting for your pick. Yeah, I'll definitely get a hold of Rob. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll just send him over. Rob, there he is. Send him over a hello. Hey, buddy. I have a number of people still asking for my signature picks. Any idea when they might be available? All right. And he lives overseas, so that might be a little while, but yeah, Dean, I'm sorry. Hey, Angelo. There evidently was a problem with the link or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the problem was, but we'll definitely be talking about it tomorrow at our meeting to figure out what the problem was. Because if we're going to have problems like that, I'll just share the actual YouTube link. We'll find a way of just sharing that, and we'll be fine that way. So everybody doesn't have to go through the other way to make that happen. But I got to figure out what happened first. If it was a problem on YouTube's end, if it was a problem with just a bad link. But I'll figure it out. Let you guys know. So Anyway, remember, if you have any questions about anything, guitar related, music related, performance related, whatever, just ask me questions and we'll just hang out for a while. Link was to last month's live session. Yeah, that is what I'm hearing. So I'll have to look and see what the deal was with that. Hold on a second. I'm just looking at one thing here to see if I can find. No, no, no. No, 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 no. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't see it. Okay. Well, anyway. Yeah, so I apologize. Yeah, it went to last month's, which I'm not sure what the deal was with going to last month's, but we'll figure it out. I'll get it figured out, and we'll go from there. So, Steve, thanks to Bev on my end. Yeah, Bev is out there working. She just got a hold of me. That's how we got this fixed. So, since you have an axe in drop C sharp, Paul says, it'd be a good time to ask to add some Godsmack songs to play songs. So, Paul, what would be a good Godsmack song? What do you like? Let me pull up some Godsmack here. See what we got. You know, I certainly know Godsmack stuff, but, you know, something like Keep Away, is that one, right? Keep Away. I know most of the stuff off that album. So whatever, Keep Away. I Stand Alone, I know that one. So C sharp on the low E, Joseph says. Yeah, so what you do is, for drop C sharp, basically what you're doing is you're tuning the entire guitar down a half step, and then you're dropping the sixth string down a whole step from there. So what would normally be drop D, when people say drop C sharp, you're basically saying it's a half step down and then drop from there. You know, where drop B, for instance, we'd have to go down 2 whole steps and then drop down to B from there. So whenever somebody says drop, we're talking about a whole step. If we want it to be more than a whole step, we'd want to specify that. Okay, Megan says, what is the best way to start learning how to play with various pedals and effects? Well, here, let me pull up Megan here. Hello, Megan. What is the best way to start learning how to play with various pedals and effects? Well, Megan, it kind of depends on what pedals and effects you're looking for. Like, for me, what you're hearing right now, I don't use a lot of effect, but what I do, and there's so many wonderful effects pedals out there, Megan. That's the thing, is you could spend a lot of money and a lot of time buying lots of different pedals. And so the big thing is figuring out, like, what pedals are you interested in? You know, are you looking for maybe a chorus pedal for some of your clean stuff? Or are you looking for like a delay and a reverb pedal or something like that? You know, for cleans and leads and different things like that for solo stuff? Or are you looking more for something like a distortion pedal or a compression pedal or something like that? You know what I mean? So it kind of depends on what you might be looking for and why you're looking for that. Okay? So Megan, if you can share a little bit more, keep chatting and tell me kind of what pedals you're looking for, and we can talk a little bit more about that. Conservative Minded is here. Hey, bud. Ken says, please express my gratitude to Bev for getting me here tonight. I appreciate your going through Bev. Bev is awesome, and I'm glad she's working and getting everybody over here. So Scotty says, I know you are predominantly electric-oriented, but what would you suggest pedal-wise for an acoustic? Yeah, reverb and the delay would be fine. That's you know, one thing that works really well with acoustic, if you're interested, is like a compression pedal. Some sort of a compressor where it kind of levels out the volume if you like that sort of thing. A lot of people really like a compression on their acoustic. And again, you can buy, you know, pedals that have multi-different effects for acoustic. You know, I was just in the guitar store today, as a matter of fact, my local guitar store, Flatland Guitar, and they have, it's by LR Bags, and I thought this was really interesting. LR Bags, and it's an IR pedal. So, if you know anything, let me find what it's called here. Voice Print, it's called. So, again, I'm not saying that you should get this. I'm just telling you I didn't even know this existed for acoustic. For electric, we, of course, have all these plugins and things that we can use for different amp tones and things like that. And then we also have what's called IRs, or impulse responses, that we can utilize in a lot of these plugins. And the impulse responses are electronic responses of a guitar cabinet and a guitar microphone and the placement of that microphone and things like that to get not only these great sounds of guitar amplifiers, but if you really understand the logic behind it, if you just take a like that back there, that 5150 Stealth that I've got sitting back there, if you take that and you try to run that direct with no cabinet, it would sound absolutely horrendous. The guitar tone is so molded by the sound of the cabinet and the speakers that you run I don't care if you buy a $10,000 amp. If you ran it direct, it would sound absolutely horrendous. So the color of that amplifier is massively impacted by the kind of cabinet and the kind of speakers you use. Well, for acoustic now, LR Baggs is a real famous pickup company. They do all kinds of things for acoustic. They have this new pedal called the Voice Print, and the Voice Print does impulse responses of different acoustic bodies, which I just thought was crazy. So you can run your acoustic guitar into this thing, and you can dial in different acoustic bodies for a different kind of impulse response of different bodies of sounds. So I mean, that's kind of crazy. For me, when I run acoustic, I don't run anything. Like, I've got a show coming up next month with my daughter in July. Yep. And when I run acoustic, I run it direct. I don't run anything. But if I was going to run something, a little delay and reverb might be quite nice to have on there. Okay? Okay, Joseph is here. Let's dig into what you want to share. Truly a brilliant teacher. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate that. And so here's Angelo. So Angelo says, how about a pedal that you can change tuning without having to alter the guitar? Well, you can do things where you drop the whole guitar in its entirety or raise the guitar in its entirety. Like, you can use a Digitech drop pedal to drop the guitar. It won't do individual tunings, okay? It will do a collective. So if you wanted to tune down a half step but you didn't want to tune down, you could use that drop pedal, okay? Or a whole step or a step and a half or whatever. And it works quite well for that. The further you go, like if you go past, 2 whole steps, it starts getting a little bit warbly. But if you were playing live on stage or something, Angelo, it works really well for doing, half step or whole step. Oftentimes, I used to bring my drop pedal a lot when I was performing a lot, when I was traveling a lot, because then I wouldn't have to bring extra guitars. Yes, it wasn't perfect, but it was way better than bringing 3 different guitars and keeping them all tuned and bringing them in the bus and all that kind of thing. It was just easier to bring the pedal. You can tune up using a pedal called the Pitchfork. I don't remember who makes the Pitchfork. Maybe one of you do. But the Pitchfork, you can tune up like a capo. But a pedal that does individual tunings you don't really have, you'd have to use something of a MIDI sense to be able to do something like that. Okay? So Megan, here she is. She says, I'm just starting, so I don't know what pedals I would want. I don't know how they work. I get you. So when you're just starting, again, it's like I just bought a pedal today. I bought, it's a TC Electronics Spark micro pedal. All it is a booster pedal. That's all it is. It's a little pedal over on that board. You probably can't, you might be able to see it. It's white sitting there, but it's just a tiny little pedal. And all it does is it's a booster. So I use it for my lead tones. Okay. So that's all it is. It doesn't really color the tone or anything like that, at least not bad enough to where it bothers me at all. Most people would say it doesn't, but that's all it does. So you can get pedals that just do things like that, where it just raises the volume, or you can get an EQ pedal that does different things. But Megan, maybe what you might do when you first start playing, again, I think a really great place to have some fun and play a little bit is with a delay and or a reverb. I think those are really, really economical pedals. You can get pedals. There's a million pedal companies out there, but if you went with something like, say, TC Electronics, you could get into a fairly inexpensive reverb pedal and just have some fun with something like that, or a real simple delay pedal. You don't have to get into super expensive ones or anything. Just something that's really easy. I always like pedals where you can just turn the knobs and dial things in, and it's pretty easy to do. Jack is here. Hey, Jack. Joseph says, what I have noticed about you is how good you are at speed. I would like to get how you got there. I'm more about something playing, but respect the speed aspect, okay? Well, the thing about speed is that, you just got to practice things over and over and over. And the most important thing is what you got to get used to is the motion between strings, right? So like many people my age, we started with the kind of the Bible of speed picking, which was Paul Gilbert's Intense Rock, where what you do is you start learning how to play 3-note per string patterns, Joseph. Whatever it is. And what you do is you take an idea out of, again, the string doesn't matter, really the frets don't matter because you're gonna do different things with it. But let's say I took up on the top here, I took 7, 9, and 10, and then I took 7 of the next string, and you get used to just doing down, up, and you dial that in, and what you do is you start doing a round robin where you just go back and forth like this. And what I'm doing is a group of 6, so it's going decca, 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 and I would set my metronome, and I would just practice. For hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of practicing that, moving the metronome up just slightly. Getting used to that pattern. And then once you get used to that, instead of playing 7, 9, 10, for instance, I could play 7, 8, 10. So now I'm practicing 1, 2, and 4. Those are my fingering. Again, with a metronome, over and over and over. And I can't even tell you how many hours. It was just all the friggin' time I would do these things. And then what you would do is take those two, because those are really the two main ones that you tend to use, is a 1, 2, 4 and a 1, 3, 4. And then what you do is you make a different round robin where now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, for instance, I'm just starting at hypothetically at the 7th fret. You could do this on any string at any fret. And then what I do is I start playing 7, 8, 10, for instance, but I do that on both strings. And I can practice doing 7, 9, 10 on both. Again, with the metronome, over and over, dialing into a metronome, just zoning out over and over and over to a metronome. Just, again, I'm not exaggerating, hours of just practicing that over and over and over. And then what I would do is I would take both of those patterns and I would start melding them together. So I might use 7, 8, 10, and 7, 9, 10, and I might do my round robin with my over, like this. And then I start practicing those, backwards and all that kind of stuff. But that's where it starts, is learning how to do. That's why 3-note per string patterns are so important if you have any inclination about playing anything faster, is learning how to do that, okay? So that's a good place to start, at some of those things. Oh, hey, look here. John is here from Rockaway Park, New York. How you doing, bud? Thank you for joining us. Hello from very warm BC. Oh, okay, British Columbia. Dennis is here. How you doing, buddy? Scotty says, thanks, Steve. We'll check it out. That was cool. Sounds cool. Was looking at getting a Fender Micro. Fender Micros are awesome for, like, I throw it in my travel bag and I just keep it in there. And then I have a little, I have a couple of like cables and stuff that I tend to bring just for the heck of it. And that's about all I do, is just that sort of thing, and bring it when I practice, when I'm on the road. I used to bring like a little practice amp. I had the little Black Star fly rig thing that I used last time I went to Germany. I used that. And, the Spark, obviously the Positive Grid Spark is awesome, but I tend to use that for my practicing at home. When I'm practicing and I need a little volume. But when I'm in a hotel or something, I've just found it easy to bring that little Fender Micro, because it's literally that big and it fits into whatever bag I'm already bringing, and it's not a big deal. Have you tried the Cuvav multi-effects pedal? You might. I'm not sure if is that right? Cuvave? Francis, I'm going to look. I haven't gone through the whole chat, so I'm not sure if that's what you meant. But if that's what you're saying, I've never even heard of that. So let's see. Susan says compression into an amp, cam modeler, delay, reverb, looper. Yeah, I mean, anything like that is perfect. Yeah, I don't really use compression either. I tend to play very, very, very dynamic when I'm playing. It's nice for picking, though. Compression is always really nice when you're doing single note picking things. But yeah, the older I get, and even when I shouldn't use that as an excuse, I've never really been a big pedal guy. I've never had a lot of pedals. I tend to run pretty raw most of the time. And it's not that I don't love pedals, I do. But the older I get, it's just trying to hook everything up all the time, and then something goes wrong. And if it's a one-off show, that's fine. But a lot of times if you're traveling and you're bringing all your stuff and then something breaks down, then you're like, crap, what's wrong? And, is it a cable, or is it a battery, or is it, something with the power, and blah, blah, blah. And so I just tend to keep things pretty easy, but that means nothing. It's all like on my little board, I've got a really big floorboard that I used to bring that I don't anymore. Now I just have a little floorboard over there that has a wah on it and the booster that I just bought, and then it's got a delay and a reverb, and then that's kind of all I run. But, everybody's different that way. Hector is here. How you doing, Hector? Okay. Thank you, Paul. So Paul says electro-harmonics makes the pitchfork, and you are right. It is. Okay. Emilio is here. Hello, Emilio. And compressors, great. So we've got a few people that are saying compressors are great. Okay, which is perfect. Okay. Ibanez chorus or tube screamer. Yeah, and those are two very different things, right, Renzo? I mean, an Ibanez chorus or a tube screamer. Again, a tube screamer is great if the amp needs it. Like if I'm running that Stealth, there's no need for a tube screamer in front of that beast, right? But a chorus is nice when you want that chorusy sound. Back in the day when I was trying to get more of the Zakk Wylde sort of Miracle Man kind of guitar tone, I would use a chorus once in a while. And on clean, obviously, a chorus sounds wonderful. So it just depends on what you're looking for. All right, cool. Cool. All right. So let's see here. Joseph, thank you very much. Hi, Steve from Louisville, Kentucky. That's Carlton. Hey, Carlton. All right. And let's see here. Oh, here we go. Angelo says, have I ever studied rock discipline? I have. Very much so. I got a lot of great exercises out of rock discipline. I didn't tend to get a lot of stuff that I utilize from a musical level, but from a practice level, I loved, some of his stretching stuff was so incredible. And his, like those kind of patterns. All those things are just great. Yeah, I definitely. I study. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not studying something from somebody. Okay? But yeah. So, Kuvavi. Okay, well, let's take a look here and see what that is, because I don't know what that is. Kuvavi, the Cool Music Life. Oh, okay. So Kuvavi kind of looks like... Let's see here. Yeah, it looks kind of like, I'm trying to think of some of those other companies from overseas where, I can't remember, like there's one that starts with a D. Gosh, I can't even remember the name of it. I even did a couple of demos on their stuff, but that's kind of what it looks like to me. Have you tried the newly advertised Spark foot controller, Martin says. I have not. It'd be pretty cool to have, but for what I use the Spark for, again, I don't try and make the Spark into something that it isn't. Like I don't really use it for anything other than my practices, which I don't really need the pedal for. And for church practice or even church performance, I go to a very small church. I used to go to a very large church and perform or play at. Now I play at a very small church, and the amp is literally sitting next to me. So I don't really need the foot controller, but if you were doing it for something, a little bit, I think it's a great idea. I'm glad that they finally came up with a foot controller that works for it. But I don't really need that for the Spark, but I think it's awesome that they have it. It's almost, I think, as expensive as the amp itself is the only thing, though. Joseph says, your teaching is the best I've ever experienced because you teach in a way that gets through to me. That's awesome. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Sean says, I just bought one of those Spark foot controllers, but it hasn't arrived yet. Well, awesome. So hopefully you can let us know, Sean, how that works for you, because I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it works great, which is very, very cool. I love that little Spark amp, man. It's a lot of fun. Ron says, when I practice modal soloing, I typically would do something like playing a G major scale over an A minor chord to get the Dorian sound or the C chord to get the Lydian sound? Well, do I find that to be helpful? Sort of. The big thing is that if you're playing over a G major and you play in, okay, so, or you're playing an A minor. Okay, the trick is you're absolutely right. That's what it is, Ron. That's exactly what it is. But always remind yourself that it isn't just the notes, because it isn't really about any position that you play. You can play, because remember, if you're playing in, because if you say you're in G major scale over A minor to get the Dorian sound, that means you're in G major, right? So just remind yourself that in that case, or the C Lydian, which again is G major, you're in G major, you're in G major, you're in G major. So no matter where you go on the fretboard, you're in G major, okay? So when the A minor chord comes up, you can play the G major scale over it, but it really has more to do with your phrasing, right? That's where you're going to get that Dorian sound. You know, with the major sixth. Anytime you're soloing, and this is where the practice is, and I know you know this, Ron, but it's not enough to play a scale shape or a scale or something. It's still selling the sound, right? So if we think about A Dorian, for instance, what is A Dorian? Well, A Dorian is emphasis of the A minor chord with the hierarchy of that major sixth. And gives you certainly that blues sound. Dorian's going to give you that kind of bluesy sound. And that's what you want it to sound like. If you go, it's going to sound like G major unless you start trying to figure out, and again, you might already be doing this. I'm just saying what your comment is. You got to really try and emphasize that A minor. Now, C Lydian, for instance, if we were doing C Lydian, again, I don't really have to move anywhere. I can stay here in this same G major scale shape. And try and get that C Lydian sound by using that raised fourth. Right? So that's what I really got to try and focus on, is getting that sound. You see? So even though I'm using the G major scale, I still got to try and focus on trying to utilize the root, the third, the fifth, and most certainly that major fourth. You see, that's how I'm going to get that Lydian sound. Okay, so playing this shape is a good start, but you got to figure out how to emphasize the proper notes to get what you want. Let's see here. Pete says, hey, Pete. Pete says, I don't use any artificial distortion or overdrive, just good reverbs and delays, such as a Strymon and Eventide. Okay, well, that's cool. That's perfect. Let's see here. Todd says, just joined from Queen Valley, Arizona. How you doing, Todd? Also bought the Music Theory 2.0 and play songs now to spend the time practicing. And that's the trick, Todd, isn't it? You gotta make sure that you spend the time, which is great. Sam says, a Boss EQ is also good for boost, and you are absolutely right. A good old-fashioned Boss EQ. I had one for many years that I would use, and it worked wonderfully. Ron says, is there a specific topic for this live stream? There's not. Just answering questions for people. Okay? And, Sean says it's $99. Sean, I'm hoping that you're talking about the pedal, because if that's all it is, I would definitely consider getting one myself. Okay? Let's see here. Joseph says, could we do a song and provide some solo context around that song to lock us all in? I know you don't sing, but maybe a tune we all relate to and how you would lead on it. Just an idea. Could we do a song and provide some solo context? Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be a viable song. If you do a jam, it just depends on what it is that you'd be interested in, Joseph. Okay? Because the song makes all the difference. Like if I'm soloing over something, the way I solo is going to be different from whether the song is in major, whether it's in minor, whether it's in blues. And not so much maybe a little bit when it's in metal, but metal still would be minor. But, when I solo, if I was going to do something like, let's say I took, let me do this quick. We'll just pull up a jam track. I can't really use a real song because then YouTube will block me and I'll get in trouble and all that other crap happens. But let's say we did like a jam track. We'll just grab something here. Okay, so this one's from Elevated Jam Tracks. It says Soulful Chill Groove. So the first thing I do...
There's a terrible curse
there is.
that plagues guitar players once they reach the intermediate stage. I call it guitar...
Okay. So let's see what we got here. So let's just say it was something like this. Okay. So what's happening here is this is going E minor. Okay. So yeah, if I'm going to solo over something, I need to know what the chords are, Joseph. I'm not just going to solo. I need to know the key. I need to know the groove, and I need to know the chords, because that's what soloing is. If I just go playing a scale and going, I'm not making a connection to anything. I'm just moving around, right? So now that I kind of know what I'm dealing with, now I have to decide my approach. Just because I know all those chords doesn't mean I have to chase them or follow them all the time, right? But it might be nice. So, for instance, some things I always think about, which I teach all the time, obviously, but I think about dynamics. And by dynamics, I certainly mean loud versus soft and high versus low and fast versus slow. But I also think about space. Like if I do something, I might go, and that's enough, right? And then depending on where I'm at in that chord structure, I might move down and connect to it. So let's say I start listening to this a little bit, and I'll get to some of your questions here. I just want to answer this real quick. So as I'm listening to this, so it still goes to that C at the end. So as I'm playing, I'm simply trying to make a connection, okay, to that music, and then keep that dynamic or that ebb and flow happening as best I can as I'm playing. So sometimes I'm trying to make a direct connection to the chords, and sometimes I'm trying to kind of dig out a melody that I like a little bit, right? And sometimes I'll find a lick that I like. But you know, with this dun dun dun, so I'm thinking dun 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 dun. You see, all those things are available to me as I'm playing. So it's not just like, let me show you what it's not. So I'm not doing this. Because Because when I do that, okay, when I do that, I'm not really making a connection to the music. I'm not making fun of it, okay? I'm just saying I'm not really making a connection. I can play pentatonic and that would be okay, but I still want to try and figure out how to make a bit of a connection to those chords as best I can and still make this ebb and flow, this dynamic contrast, right? So even if I went more pentatonic with it, so let me bring this up again. But it would be nice to be able to connect a little bit more with those chords. And see, that's where like the cage system or whatever you're thinking kind of comes in, right? So as I keep playing, I start thinking about, well, here comes E minor. And really, E minor is where I start on, but D is where I end on because it comes in right away, right? So I might do something where, or I move to E, and then I go right to D, okay? And then I've got B minor to C. Well, again, I don't have a lot of time on that B minor, but I'm going to, again, move myself toward the second chord, which is the C. So I could play something in B minor and then move up to that C, but that's going to sound kind of weird too, right? So I start trying to figure out which chords to best focus on. And for me, it would probably be that D, and then, because it's the second chord, and then B minor to C is the second chord. So if I think about it that way, kind of thinking about the E minor, excuse me, the D and the C, let me back this up again. See? So here's my movement. Ways to approach that. Stop it again. Okay? And sometimes, am I walking up to the next chord? I don't think of it as walking up to the next chord. I'm just visualizing the chords all over the fretboard, right? Because I could take my E minor, and E minor would be here, or wherever, right? And then I've got D sitting right here. So I can move right from E minor to D, and then C, or excuse me, B minor's coming up. So I might move into that, although I probably should stay in the key of E minor. So there's my B minor sitting right there, and then C comes up. Okay, so then I've got to think about moving from that B to that C that's sitting right there. You see? So any of those ways would work, okay, as you play. So let's see here. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody here. That is music. You are playing a song, not notes only. Yeah. Yep. Arthur, we're just glad you're here, bud. Glad you're here. Carlton says, that was so smooth, you aren't overpowering. Well, and to be honest with you, Carlton, for this particular track, I would probably try and dial in a different tone as well. I mean, my tone is kind of, it's pretty heavy and rocking right now. It's just, that's what I started with. But if I was really going to try and play over this, I'd probably back off this tone. But in order to do that, that's going to take a little bit more work. But Ron says, I would visualize the fretboard to G major for this type of improvising. Well, again, that's the kind of the default, Ron, is to do that. You got to be careful with that, though, because, again, it's the thing you have to be careful of is if you're just moving around inside a shape, it doesn't matter whether you call it G major or A Dorian or B Phrygian or E minor or whatever, you got to make a connection to the music. That's the part, Ron, that you really got to be careful with because the scale will only get you so far. And moving around in the scale will only get you so far. The big trick is trying to find music within whatever it is that you're visualizing. Because we are in G. This song is in G. I mean, that's what it is. If we're in E minor, we are in G. But if I just go down and go... and do that, I might get... what I always tell people, when you play like that, you get lucky sometimes. Sometimes everything kind of fits, but you're playing odds because if you're not really aware of what's coming and you're not reacting to the things that are coming, you're taking a chance. There's always variables in there that sometimes you're not going to hit the right notes because we're not really making that connection. And again, in saying that doesn't mean that you always have to hit the right notes. You might be playing, for instance, you might be in the middle of really jamming. Let me make sure you know what I'm going. There, I hear the music drop down again, and I'm going, oh crap! I'm just jamming over this thing, and I'm overplaying. If that music backs down again, I want to anticipate that that's happening, that music is going to come. Otherwise, I'm just ripping up the fretboard, and then the music comes down, and I go, whoops! Right? I should have been following that. Now, again, if I've never played over it before, I don't know, but like I was telling somebody yesterday, the beauty for us that we forget oftentimes is that we can prepare. Even if it's a backing track, like I find it interesting that so many people will look for backing tracks or whatever it might be, and they won't listen to them. They just expect to play along, sight unseen, unheard, and just play along, and it's all going to be magical, where they haven't spent any time, any prep time, figuring out the song. You would never jump on stage and just somebody go, okay, you're in front of 10,000 people, you have no idea what we're going to do, so here we go, let's play. You know, you could talk to the most famous guitar players that you love, and nobody would ever do that. Like, there's got to be some element of analysis of where we're going. I'm not just talking to Ron, I'm talking to everybody, but including myself. So don't forget that when you're going to practice with a song, with a jam, with your band, a song that you're writing, a song that you're performing on, you know, that you got hired for, whatever it might be, you can take time to plan some of the elements so you know what you're dealing with. You see, as opposed to just kind of going in blindly, that's something you got to be a little bit careful with. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph says, it's truly incredible, your gift, Steve. God bless you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very nice. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you could find anything. Let's just find something else here, you know, whatever. Now, these are all in E minor. Let's try something in, let's do just the opposite. Let's do G major. Okay? So now G major comes up. Let's see what we got.
Think about the moments you've been missing.
I'm loving it. So now, okay, so now I've got, let me pause that for a second, sorry about that. So now I've got G, D, E minor, C, right? It's in the same key as the other one, okay? But now I've got to try and make some other connection, right? So G comes up, and I might think to myself, or something like that. And then D's coming up, E minor comes up, and I'm going to head over to that C, right? So again, and it doesn't matter where I go for this. If I want to come down here to G, D, E minor, C, I'm going to start thinking about that a little bit as I keep kind of moving, you see? Let me make sure I've got everybody here. And I'll keep going here, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Ron says, not moving up and down the scale, but phrasing and landing on chord tones. Yeah, I mean, that's the key, is it's all in what you see and how you see it. Because at the end of the day, there's 1,000 ways to look at your fretboard when you're going to approach something. It's all in, I was trying to, again, explain to students when I used to do private lessons, it isn't what you're thinking, it's what people are hearing, right? Because they don't think what you think. Nobody thinks what you think. I mean, we do have commonalities, but everybody's thought process is a little bit different all the time. That's what makes us all individual. But the trick is it's not what we're thinking about, it's what the audience is hearing. And that's what we always want to focus on. So as long as it's getting you to the place where the music is what you want, then you're doing great. I'm just saying to anybody out there, be careful of shortcuts when we summarize ideas, and then we just do the same thing over and over and over, because it's hard to make things sound different because everything winds up sounding kind of the same. And again, it's a gamble. So this music's happening and we're doing something over here, but if we're not really trying to kind of penetrate the wall and get in where this song is happening, oftentimes the music won't really sound like music. It's just going to sound like they're doing there and we're jamming over here, like we're playing things over here. Now, the novice, our friend, our wife, our husband, our kids, whatever, will oftentimes listen to that. They don't know any better, or they're being nice to us or whatever, and they're not going to say anything, right? But when you get around another group of musicians, that's where all this stuff really starts becoming a reality. That's what I always loved about being with other people, is that you're always going to learn something. You might not be the best player in the room, but you're always going to learn something, which is just a great thing. John says, what are you looking up on your computer for songs in particular keys? I'm not. I'm just grabbing a jam track. I just went on YouTube and I just grab whatever jam track and then figure out what the chords are. Sometimes the chords are written on the videos, but sometimes they're not. I just kind of figure them out and go from there. If I have I can hear stuff pretty well. So if I get an audio track, I can find those pretty quick. Clayt says, thanks, Steve. Looking forward to the next live session. I'm glad you're here, Clayt. That's awesome. Scotty says, I used to jam with a couple of guys that both wanted to play lead and would always play for over the top of each other. Yep. I got a TNT 115 bass amp and cranked it up to 4. They just played noise. That's right. And that's the thing is figuring out what works best for you, So, yeah, soloing, for me, I play in different bands. So sometimes when I play in one of my heavier bands, soloing is absolutely crucial and kind of showcasing, right? That's what we call it. Showing off to a certain degree, because that's the style of music it is. But then there's other times when I play in bands and it's not about that at all. So that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm part of a group of people, an ensemble, if you will. And sometimes I have my place and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm just in the back. So it kind of depends on the style of music. But the goal to getting those gigs, to getting any gigs and being asked back, whether it's performance, whether it's recording, whatever, is being able to do the job, when people listen to you play. And so I always tell people, as important as I think flash can be, core elements of soloing are by far more important, right? Making a connection to that melody, having a really great sense of vibrato and bending and that sort of thing, having stylistic licks and things that you like when you play. So as I'm playing this, right? tone is completely wrong for this. But you get the idea. So that's part of it is learning how to connect to that music. As you're hearing it, it's propelling you to do certain things. Again, it doesn't mean you always have to connect melodically. Sometimes we want that ebb and flow, okay? Let's see here. GearFest was only online again this year, but we had scheduled vacation days to see. Oh, so we stopped by Sweetwater last Saturday. Oh, man, really? That sucks. I tell you what, I definitely have plans to get out and start seeing everybody very, very soon. Yeah, all of Sweetwater was online this year, so gosh, that sucks. It would have been really nice to see you. Well, I will definitely let you know when I start traveling again and we can get together, because Sweetwater is definitely in my sights. Not even for GearFest, just to be able to get together, maybe do something in one of their stages there and hang out and talk music and eat and do whatever. So yeah, wow, that's awesome, man. I certainly hope to see you very soon. You and your daughter and your family. That's so awesome. Angelo says, speed is important, but it's all about phrasing that mostly counts. Yeah, it's all about musical connection. That's the big thing. Emilio, do you teach the same topics as you do in college classroom, or is there more to learn in the class? Well, it depends on which class you're talking about. It always depends on the conversation. Like, I never show up for anything with a complete idea of what I'm going to be doing, because you never know who's going to be there and what those questions are going to be like. So you have to be a little bit careful of preparation and not knowing what people's interests are going to be. So how about the East Coast? I have every intention of getting out to the East Coast, Hector. Again, once things start moving, I've always had this wonderful plan of being able to go out and visit you guys everywhere. Just go out, once a month, once every 2 months, whatever it is, go out to different places and just hang out, play music, talk about music, have something to eat, have something to drink if we want, and enjoy the time together and keep playing, answer the questions and just really hang out. I love that kind of stuff. So that's my plan. But yeah, Emilio, it all depends. My topics are always geared toward what people's questions are. And then what I love to do, especially if it's actual interaction, is get people to come up on stage and hang out or wherever it is we are, and go through some of this stuff. Start figuring out how to make that actual connection, so when you leave, you go, all right, I get this. This makes sense to me. Okay? Pete says, I'm in. I never miss an excuse to head to Sweetwater. I totally agree. Yeah, and I've talked to a couple of guys there. We've got to make some plans. Just everybody seems so busy right now, now that things are kind of getting back to normal. Just everything is just 100 miles an hour. So, but that's what my goal is for sure. I love Sweetwater. There's so many friends I have there, and I think it'd be fun to do something in Fort Wayne. But again, we could do something in North Carolina. We could do something, again, anywhere. It doesn't make any difference. I think that'd be great. So hopefully that stuff makes sense to you. These are just some things to think about a little bit in terms of your soloing, but always think dynamic contrast, ebb and flow, yin and yang, right? If you do something fast, follow it up with something slow. If you're doing something that's really pentatonic, maybe try and throw some diatonic notes in there. If you're doing something that was a particular kind of rhythm, try something else. If you started on the one, again, don't overload yourself with all of these things, okay? Just what I always tell people is take a piece of paper and just write down any ebb and flow or dynamic contrast ideas you're thinking about. And if something new comes up, if we talk about something and you go, I never thought about pentatonic versus diatonic. I never thought about stop playing entirely, right? That sort of thing. You write those down on your piece of paper or your blackboard or whatever it is that you have. Whiteboard, I guess it would be. And then you've got all these things. So when you start soloing, you can look at your thing and go, oh, okay, I forgot about that. That's what I should try and do is... try and throw something like that in there, right? So I'm playing a little more bluesy or whatever. I mean, not that that's all perfect, but you get the idea. You know what I mean? So if that kind of helps you. So anyway, we're going to stop there. Thank you so much. I will figure out the issue that we had with the link. And tomorrow we'll figure that out. That I will spend the day trying to work on that to make sure that that never happens again to you guys. And then we'll go from there. See, we actually moved to my streaming now is done through Restream, which is what I use like on Mondays when I do my motivation. Because I wound up having an issue with Wirecast a while back, and it scared me. So I was like, I'm not using that anymore. So that's what I keep trying to do is find the best way. I really love using Restream simply because, again, I can share this kind of stuff with you. So you can see what I'm doing. You can see my mouse. You can see my plugins, all these different things. Where when I was using Wirecast 2, you couldn't do any of that. So that way, when we get back to our discussions about recording and things like that, this is going to work great because you can actually see all that kind of stuff. Okay? So everybody take care. Please, please stay positive. Keep practicing. Keep looking for those answers that you need to kind of get to the next level. But also remind yourself that there's so many things that I guarantee you that you already know how to do, that if you just manipulate them a little bit more, they're going to become very, very musical. It's not always about new stuff. Sometimes it is. But sometimes it's just about retweaking some of the things that you already have. And, before we go, little things. Like I remember learning how to do these things where I would bend, because I would always do like a half step or a whole step bend or something. And I remember learning how to do these things where I would do like, let's say I'm doing this. So I'm going to go, which is, I'm going to do those notes. Where I'd do two bends in one, or I would do bends where I would slide. Like things like that. Like I never even knew those things existed until I started exploring bending more and went, oh man, that's a really cool idea. Why don't I do that, right? Why are my bends only just bends? Why can't I do something more fun with those? And that's where I started figuring out all these different ways of exploring different things I could do with the things I already knew, okay? So hopefully that helps you a little bit, all right? So everybody take care, stay positive, and I'll talk to y'all soon.